What's up, everyone? Here with another different type of video. So as I've mentioned before, for a living, I am a financial advisor. And all that means basically, you can think of it sort of like a doctor, where I can either help people fix financial mistakes they've made, or I can help people take preventative action so they don't fall into certain financial issues that are either common or very unique to their specific situation. And I really enjoy it, and not necessarily because of the money, because the money is, it's pretty good. But what I really love about it is the ability to help people get from one stage of their financial picture to the next, or to show them that money is not really about what you can buy, but it's about a lifestyle that you can live, and having the freedom to really do whatever it is that you want to do after you take certain steps to make sure that you're protected from a financial standpoint. So I love what I do. It's pretty awesome. It's all I've ever done. I've never had any other type of career. And what I want to do with a portion of my time with you all is give you guys some general principles about finance. Being into cars, that's a very expensive habit. And it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing that it's expensive, but in all situations, you want to understand how you could be doing something better, whether you're on track and things like that. So to get started, I live my life, and I encourage my clients to live their lives by a very simple principle when it comes to money, okay? And that principle states as following. There's only two things you can truly do when it comes to money. Number one is you can spend it, okay? And number two is you can save it. And that's really it. And the function by which we do these things varies, obviously. So for someone who would complain, I don't ever have any money, blah, 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 they're doing more spending than saving, obviously. But people that have financial success, they're typically doing more saving. And again, it's in a variety of different ways. It's not just about putting your money away under your pillow. And one of those ways that it's really important that we all understand is saving for retirement. Now, I know most of us are on the younger side, and retirement is the furthest thing from our head. But I caution you, it shouldn't be, okay? And the reason why is because eventually what's going to happen, if no one saves for retirement, everyone's going to eventually rely on what? The government. Things like Social Security, relying on the government for health care, all because we didn't take the steps while we were young to start putting money away so we wouldn't rely on the government. And if we have too much stress on government assistance, that whole system is basically going to inevitably blow up. And what I mean by that is there's going to be too many people that need that assistance and not enough assistance to give all those people. So the easiest way to avoid all of that is simply to put money away while you're young, okay? And honestly, this is one of those things where it can be too late, okay? Time is a huge part of this. A person that starts saving earlier doesn't really need to do as much when it comes to putting money away as someone who's starting later. And of course, if you've started too late, then it's too late. You're gonna have to work for the rest of your life, or, in some situations, rely on the government. Now, those government programs are there for a reason. Let's just say, for instance, you can't save for retirement. You can't really put money away because, you have a child with special needs, okay, which happens, unfortunately, right? So in that scenario, the government is there to be able to assist you because you have something in your life that is unique, that has prevented you from taking necessary steps to provide for yourself. And that's fine. That's what it's there for those unique situations. It was never designed to support the entire country, right? So, long story short, we're going to talk very briefly about how, as a young person, as a middle-aged person, or even as an older person, you can start saving for retirement. And that savings vehicle is called an individual retirement account, all right? It's called an IRA. Now, I'm sure that, if you're on the younger side, you've probably heard this on TV or heard your parents or grandparents or other family members and friends talk about, you got to start putting money away, you should open up an IRA. But a lot of people do this, but they don't really understand what and how it functions. So I'm going to break it down from a very simple standpoint. There are other types of IRAs, but I'm just going to give you the basics for today's video. All right. So 2 types of IRAs. All right. One is traditional. Okay. And the second is a Roth IRA. Now, when it comes to IRAs, the big advantage here is taxes. Okay. And if no one really understands how taxes work, again, I'll put it very simply. Taxes are your fee to the government for making money. Okay? Basically, any money that you earn is taxed from some standpoint, whether it's by your state, by your local, municipal governing body, or the federal government, right? However, with an IRA, you have tax advantages. Okay? And I'll explain how it works. It's actually pretty simple. Again, this doesn't apply to everyone because there are some stipulations which I can go over as well. But here we go. Basics of, which IRA would you choose? Okay? So I'll use an analogy. Let's say you're a farmer. Okay? And you've got this seed that you know can yield you a pretty big harvest. Okay? So the government says, we'll use me for instance. All right, Dexter, so you got this seed, it's going to give you some sort of harvest, so we're going to give you 2 options. Okay? Option number 1, you can deduct from your taxes right now whatever the cost was to plant that seed. Okay? So let's just say you plant the seed on a yearly basis of $5,000. What the government allows you to do is to take that cost of planting that seed that cost you $5,000 and take that out of your income. Okay? Which for some people is great. So for instance, if I plant my seed of $5,000 and I made 50 grand last year, I can now tell the government, since I planted that seed, I'm going to deduct it from my income. So instead of $50,000, now I can claim $45,000, which, can mean less that you're paying in taxes now. It can mean bigger tax returns, things of that nature. However, the catch to that is when you go to yield that harvest, when you go to actually, glean it and take it from the ground and use it later on in life, at that point, whatever you take out on a yearly basis, you're paying taxes on. Okay? So let's just say, you've planted your seed, you've now got 100,000 ears of corn. But on a yearly basis, you're only using, we'll say, 500 of them. You've now got to pay taxes on those 500 ears of corn on that yearly basis, which you take them out. Okay? You might say, well, that's not fair. Well, think about it. You've been deducting that from your income all those years. So let's say you started doing this when you were 20. You stop putting away for retirement when you're 60, right? That's 40 years you've been deducting the cost to plant that corn from your income. Now you got to start paying the government. Makes sense, right? There's no way to avoid paying them. You just can either pay it now or you can delay it. It's basically how it works. So that, my friends, is called a traditional IRA. So whatever you put into that IRA, you're deducting from your income as you're investing. Okay? And when you're done investing, when you hit retirement and you're starting to take that money out, now you're going to pay taxes on it, which can work to your advantage because when you're older, you're not earning any income. This could just be your only source of income, so you're paying less in taxes because you're not making as much. Again, if you're making $50,000 and you're investing, you're paying taxes on $50,000 minus what you put in. If you're only taking out that $500, or more realistic, let's say it takes you 10 grand to live on a yearly basis when you're old, you're only paying taxes on $10,000, but you've deducted so much more as you've been investing over the years. Okay? Hope that wasn't confusing. Post comments if it was. I'll explain it better. Now, the other option, to change gears here, the IRS says, okay, You're going to go ahead and you're going to pay taxes on the cost of planting the seed all throughout your farming career. Okay? However, when you get to the end of the road and you're ready to start gleaning and harvesting that corn, all of your growth is tax-free. Okay? So you've only put aside $5,000 worth of seeds your whole career, and you pay taxes on them. However, when you get to the end of the road and you've got, $100, $250, $500,000 worth of corn, you can glean all that harvest without paying any taxes to the government at all. Okay? That's how a Roth IRA works. Okay? So basically, you put your money away, every paycheck, every year, what have you. And when you get to the end of it, when your investment has grown, to the hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars, you can start taking that money out when you reach the age of 60 without paying any taxes to the government. So you can take that whole big chunk of change out all at once, which no one would advise, but you can do it, and not pay a single dime in taxes on what you've earned. So it's pretty awesome. Both of these options are valuable for different people. It really just depends on your particular financial situation. And I would advise that if you never talk to anyone about this, that you have that conversation. I don't want anyone to think that you have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank to have a financial advisor. It's actually very much the opposite. Your financial advisor will help you get to the hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars in the bank, because we don't expect you all to know how all that works. Again, it's just like a doctor. No doctor, no medical specialist expects you to understand everything there is about your own health. There's some basics, obviously. There's some common sense things. When it comes to those more advanced types of diagnoses and things like that, that's really the job of a medical specialist, just like for a financial advisor. When it comes to, I've got money, but I don't really know what to do with it, that's where we come in. And we can help you get to the point where you've reached that financial freedom by taking these steps all throughout your career. Okay? And that's really basically how it works. Those are the fundamentals of traditional and Roth IRAs. If anybody, like I said, it is a little bit more complicated than that when it comes to how it applies to you. If you have any specific questions, I'm more than happy to answer very general questions in the comments. I won't get into anything too specific because I can't sit down with you and advise you on you should do this, you should do that. But from a general understanding standpoint, I'm more than willing to help you guys out. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informational, if nothing else, and shine a little bit of light on how these things function and why they're in place. The government doesn't want you relying on them 100% any more than I'm assuming you want to rely on the government. So they put these things in place with these tax benefits so that you can take advantage of them. So my advice to you is take advantage of them. So that's it for today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to making more of these in the future just to be able to keep you and the car community and the general population informed. Thanks a lot. I'm going to start saying this at the end of my videos, because I heard the other day and it was actually a really, really good quote. So expect to hear this at the end of every one of my videos. It's a really good reminder in your life as a whole, and especially in your financial situation. And that quote says, no matter what you've done in your past, your future is spotless.